We'll go ahead and call Marshall County Fiscal Court Special Call Meeting, February 12th, 2019, 1 p.m. to order. And Eric, the stage is yours if you want to get up and speak on behalf of Enterprise.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for having me. Good to meet everyone and see everyone again. Did everyone get a copy of this either now or did you get a chance to check it out beforehand? Okay. So basically what this is a summary of an analysis that I did on the county's fleet. We tried to focus more on non-emergency response vehicles for this analysis just because we can control a little bit more projected savings based on equipment that goes on those vehicles. I know the sheriff's vehicles are going to have a little bit more equipment. So we're just focusing on your road department type of trucks for this analysis. But basically, just to give you guys a little bit of background for those that aren't familiar with the program, Enterprise Fleet Management is a sister company of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which you guys are probably familiar with. Enterprise Rent-A-Car, largest rental company in North America. With Enterprise Rent-A-Car and Fleet Management, together we manage about 2 million vehicles. So that is the largest fleet in North America. And basically my job is to go out and market our program to government entities and commercial customers just to make sure they know what their options are when it comes to fleet management. We're a team of about 20 people and we manage 12,000 vehicles in Kentucky and southern Indiana. So we operate lean and mean, but we have a lot of tools and resources that allow us to help folks determine what is the best cycle for their vehicles. Because what we know as a fleet management company is that running a vehicle until the wheels fall off is not the most cost-effective thing to do. So if it's not when the wheels fall off, exactly what point in time is it? And that's different depending on the vehicle, the department, the type of upfit on that vehicle. So we're here to guide you guys along the way, meet with you a few times a year, and look at when is the right time to replace a vehicle for your existing fleet and for vehicles that you may start with on our program. So if you flip to the second page, I just have an impact of the partnership, and this is a synopsis of that analysis I put together, which is on the page after this. But just big picture, we're looking at 36 vehicles, and I think there may be some overlap with some emergency response vehicles, so it may not be exactly 36, but I still think that this is going to capture what we can accomplish for you guys with your fleet. So 36 light-duty vehicles. You can see notes in the situation. 25% of the current light and medium-duty fleet is over 10 years old. So based on that and your purchase history over the last 20 years or so, it would take about 10 and a quarter years to cycle through your fleet completely. So our goal is to get you guys to 5 years maximum. So if we do that, we're operating a newer fleet, a more fuel-efficient fleet, a fleet that costs less to maintain. So in addition, we're selling them while there's still a significant amount of value in them, thus lowering your total cost of ownership. Okay, so the objective is, you guys are familiar with financing and leasing vehicles. We can get into what makes ours a little bit different from a standard dealership lease, but in order to fund this cycle, we would look at an open-ended municipal lease, which I have some examples of what that would look like on a few vehicles later in the presentation. But as we get into this partnership, my recommendation is to replace 12 of these 36 vehicles. That's what this analysis is based on. And if we do that, we can reduce your maintenance cost by 65% in the first year alone. And what that would equate to versus what you guys are spending today, cash, is about $50,000 in year one would be the impact to actually replace a third of your fleet. Okay? So the third page is the actual analysis. And did you all want me to go through this just kind of high level or?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically this is a 10-year analysis to see what would the impact of this partnership be if you guys took my recommendation today and stuck to it. So this is actually 2 cycles. This would be, the first 5 years and then actually the second 5 years once we're fully implemented and we continue into this partnership, where are the savings going to come from? What's the impact going to be? So the top part of this, you can see Marshall County Fleet Planning Analysis. The gray and white section, these are some assumptions that I made for this analysis. So your current fleet is 36 vehicles. Is everybody following me where I'm at there? Your current cycle, 10.25 years. And your current maintenance, $125 per month. We kept it conservative with what you guys are spending today. This takes into account an average fleet of 10.25 years old, doing some maintenance in-house. This is a very conservative approach when you look at what national averages are for a similarly aged fleet. So fleet growth, 0%. I'm not recommending that you guys add any vehicles to the fleet, and I'm not recommending that you defleet any. So your utilization across the board is fine today. Your annual miles on average is 12,700. And this is looking at all departments. I understand you guys are going to have some folks that do 20,000 miles a year, some that may do 5,000. We're just looking at averages here. Insurance is zeroed out. You're going to have that either way. And your miles per gallon on the current fleet based on the age and miles is about 12, okay? So proposed fleet goes to 36. Proposed cycle actually goes to 4 years because there are going to be some pickup trucks in the fleet that I'm going to recommend flipping every year, possibly 2 years. So that's driving that down from 5 to a 4-year average cycle. Proposed maintenance cost is going to end up being about $43.94 a month once you're in your newer vehicles, and the fuel price that I used was $2.20 a gallon. Okay? So all of that feeds into this graph below where you see the orange line. And what that orange line is basically what you guys are doing today. When I look at the average age of your fleet, your purchase history, this is about what you guys are doing. So you see fiscal year says average, your fleet size is 36. Your annual needs, you guys are replacing about 3.5 vehicles per year. You own 36, 0 on lease. I know some are leased or financed now. This is just more conceptual to tell you. So your purchase budget is about $90,000 a year. Lease payments 0 in this case, and your maintenance budget is about $54,000 a year. Not counting any equity from the sale of existing fleet, your fuel spend is about $83,820, making your total annual fleet budget about $227,000 per year. Does that make sense? So we'll just look at the first year of the partnership with Enterprise if you guys replace these 12 vehicles that I mentioned. So in 2019, your fleet size is still 36. Your annual needs goes from 3.5 to 12. You then own 24 vehicles, have 12 on lease. Your purchase budget goes to 0. The lease payments go to about $59,000, and your maintenance budget goes down to about $42,000. Fuel budget goes down by about $9,000, making the fleet budget in that first year $178,000, which is where I got that number earlier of a $50,000 impact in year 1. Okay? So again, this is just my broad brush recommendation based on replacing everything 10 years old and older or with 115,000 miles or more in the first year. Now, ultimately, it's up to you guys how you want to start the partnership. I think we identified a few vehicles that we might need to get on order immediately to get the ball rolling. That is perfectly fine. This is just a recommendation to show you guys that there is a little bit better way to manage the fleet. It's just a matter of getting vehicles on a little bit tighter rotation. So we'll be here to guide you guys with that. The fleet profile below is just a breakdown of which types of vehicles we would be replacing in each year. And that's, I have an accompanying replacement worksheet where we actually show the specific vehicles, so we don't have to dive into this. But does that kind of give you an idea of what the partnership encompasses? Okay, any questions on the analysis? Or? So page 4.
That's completely excluding ours, right?
Yes. I tried to take out vehicles that looked like, that were either labeled special service or police interceptor that may have some equipment on them. So we need to treat those a little bit separately. Definitely still a benefit there, but the upfit for that could be $5,000, it could be $15,000, so it's hard to estimate what those vehicles cost up front. Okay?
And Eric, just to make sure I'm following along on this, the lease, where you've got the average highlighted here in yellow. Right now, currently, we have 0.
Okay.
In this example.
Correct.
But then as you go in the 19, 20, 21 years, that number increases all the way to year 2028 to 193,278. So that will be the lease commitment by the county.
Yes. If you stuck to this to a T, our estimated fully implemented lease budget would be about $193,000 per year.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you see, it's really what, which buckets you're spending the money. Today you're spending a little bit more in operating cost. In this program, you're spending more on depreciation because you have newer vehicles. But overall, we're reducing it by about 15%.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so page 4. I have some vehicles that we took a look at. If you were to replace, we looked at a sedan and a few half-ton pickup trucks, what those payments would be, what you guys would need to budget for 12 months of payments for these vehicles. So we kind of talked about this. I would actually encourage you guys to, as crazy as it sounds, a pickup truck would be a little bit better solution than a sedan right now, just because of the resale market. So even if you have some vehicles for the office, I would suggest a crew cab pickup truck for those. So your payments are listed below here, monthly payments, and then annual payments are highlighted. And something that stood out to me here is actually the extended cab half-ton pickup truck is less than the regular cab pickup truck, and that is just based on what current pricing is for those trucks. So they change each month, and that's one thing that you guys would get with us is the ability to evaluate what the incentives are on a given month. So it's a moving target on our side, whereas state contract, you're locked into a price throughout the year. We can kind of stay in tune with the fluctuations with the manufacturer. So right now, I would actually recommend an extended cab pickup truck over a regular cab pickup truck.
And you've gotten your examples, just so in case anybody's got any questions, you've gotten your examples, the 2019 Chevrolet Silverados, but
Yes.
that could be a Ford, or that could be other vehicles as well.
Yes. We can order any type, any make or model. Right now, pricing is readily available on these, and we can still order them. So, but absolutely, we can look at Ford and Dodge at any point.
Okay.
I noticed you've got 10,000 estimated annual miles on the pricing page. On our page 3, the example, our average miles was 12,700. I know typically with a lease, you get hammered on additional mileage. How will that affect these figures? Do you have those numbers if you bump those up to 12,000 miles a year?
Yes, that's a really good question. These numbers would not change if that went to 12,000. So if we went over 15,000, it would change a little bit. And really, it's just we're going to depreciate them a little bit faster. Even if we did set them up on 12,700 a year, and for some reason you went 15,000 miles a year, you wouldn't be responsible for paying any over mileage or anything like that.
Okay.
And I think what we've talked about too is, say we do incur more miles on those vehicles, that's just faster that you guys will refresh those vehicles out. So you get to that break-even point where, maybe in 3 years, maybe it was a 5-year lease. In 3 years, you're up to that point of like, hey, this is a vehicle that they've identified that we need to refresh out because it's going to depreciate even more over the next 2 years. Is that accurate?
Right.
Okay.
Are you going to get into that a little bit more in details as far as what he's talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. So what we're really paying attention to is, like Brad said, the depreciation of vehicles. They depreciate with the mileage, and the focal point is actually your buying power on these trucks. You're getting them for around $25,000, for an extended cab pickup truck. So if we're going to only put 10,000 miles on that truck per year, we probably have a pretty good business case for rotating that vehicle every year based on the estimated fair market value of that pickup truck. So we'll look at that for you guys. If it makes sense at that time to keep it in the fleet, we can do that. But we're going to run the numbers for you each year to see what your cost per mile is today and what it would be if we were to cycle out of that vehicle and replace it with a 2020 pickup truck. Now, obviously, I can't do that with every single truck in the fleet because some are going to have service beds, some are going to have snow plows and salt spreaders, but your minimal aftermarket trucks, we're going to have a lot more flexibility with early cycles. But we will keep a close eye on your mileage, and we want to fine-tune that as much as possible. But overall, we don't have any government entities that are really burning up the road, putting 20,000 plus miles on their vehicles per year. So you guys are probably going to be in a pretty safe spot.
Can you talk a little bit about and I know we've talked about the sale of the vehicles, especially with our existing fleet. Whether it be a vehicle that we currently lease or one that we own, and how that process works on your end. Because I think what we've seen in the past is we'll run, like you said, run these till they're, dead, and then we try to turn around and sell them, and we barely get anything for them. So kind of talk towards our existing fleet and how that would work, and then moving forward.
Right. So I can't speak to the existing fleet. I think that would be something that we would have to talk to the attorney about, if we could sell those on your behalf or not. On vehicles that are on our program, when it comes time to sell those vehicles, we will provide a turnkey solution for disposing those vehicles on your behalf. So this is really how we make the partnership make sense. If we're going to rotate the vehicles at the most opportune time, we've got to be able to sell them well on the back end. Enterprise sells 1 million vehicles a year. So, for example, if we did decide that it made financial sense to rotate a truck or replace it after 12 months, we would order the truck that is going to replace that one at maybe month 6 in the first vehicle cycle, replace that new truck, take the old one out of service, sell it on your behalf. It usually takes us about 19 days before we have the funds ready for you guys. So at that point, if we have equity, which you will in this case if we're making that recommendation, we would just apply those funds to the vehicle that it's replacing. So instead of a $400 a month payment, maybe it goes down to $375 because we've got equity being rolled. That is a huge benefit of the partnership. If you were to reach out to any of the folks on the program now, it would probably be a highlight, just the ease of getting rid of the vehicles. But as far as I know, it's only on the vehicles that are run through our program.
Right. Okay.
So. As far as getting started, there are several ways to do it. Some counties will go to RFP and request bids. And we also have a contract with Sourcewell, used to be NJPA. So you guys are members, and we did check on that. And they've negotiated pricing and everything, so you would have the ability to piggyback off of that. Those contracts are online. I believe I sent them to Brad. So.
Can you, Eric, briefly describe, I had Jacob, he's our mechanic from the county. Can you just briefly describe if we were to use in-house maintenance?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So that would be, we would set you guys up as a shop, essentially. Not to service the general public, but we would get our software on your computer. It's a system called Auto Integrate. And that would give your mechanics the ability to log whatever maintenance they're doing to those vehicles. As part of this program is a pretty neat website that you guys will have access to, and that maintenance that you do in-house will actually flow into the website so we can track everything fleet-related, so depreciation, maintenance, and fuel. So we'll use that data in tandem with you guys to come up with the best recommendations, but that would it would consist of a vehicle going into the shop. As long as a computer is pulled up with an internet connection, they would just put the unit number for the vehicle in and log everything that's done. So you would also have the ability to use outside shops too. So if there's something that you can't accomplish in-house, you would be able to seamlessly rely on a local shop. It would be recognized as an enterprise vehicle, and they would work with our techs to diagnose the vehicle and record the maintenance. So it would feed into the website the same way it would with your in-house shop. That program it's $5 a month. It's really a card fee. It's not a profit center for us. But we do have folks in St. Louis that if you go outside of your own shop, that will audit the maintenance and oversee everything being done to the vehicles.
Now, it still has standard warranty like any other vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Any kind of warranty work, Chevrolet, you take the Chevrolet garage.
Absolutely.
As far as your bed's concerned on the dump trucks, not dump trucks, your like a flatbed or a dump bed do y'all have those options also?
Yes. Yes, we can do anything up to like an F-750 dump bed. So we should be able to handle that. We can, if you have a preferred upfit vendor, you can use them. We have options for you if you want to kind of shop around and see what some other options are. A lot of folks will go with a nap hide type of service bed.
And as far as for modifications on the vehicle, is there a limit to like snow plows and wiring, as far as having time? There's
No.
no limits.
No, you run the vehicles just like you own them.
Is there a time frame after we say we special order, or do we special orders? Is it something that y'all have on the fleet, or something that we can order? Like some of our trucks, we gotta have a snow plow package for lighting.
Yes.
Is that everything? I mean,
Yeah, so we would order them direct from the manufacturer, and we would get the exact specs that you need for the upfit. Time frame is going to be your standard 12 to 14 weeks for the truck itself, and another couple of weeks for aftermarket to be installed. So, yeah, and that's something that will become less of an issue as we get into the program, and we start planning ahead for your replacements. You know, whereas today, you may say go on something the day you need it, and then all of a sudden it's 4 months before you get it. We want to be ahead of that as much as possible. There's a little bit, you know, that's a challenge starting out the partnership, but moving forward, we would want to have that figured out for you.
And as far as the lease is concerned, of the turnover, is it more based on the mileage than it is condition?
Absolutely.
Mostly on mileage.
Yeah, mileage is what drives depreciation more than anything else. Yeah.
I know some of our stuff ain't got that many miles, it's still in really good shape.
Mhm.
3-year-old, but they all have a 10,000 miles on them.
Right. Yeah, so we could look at the possibility of double cycling the aftermarket. You know, maybe we order a new chassis and put the aftermarket equipment on a new chassis and go sell that chassis. It's something that we will look at with you guys each year to you know, it could change one year from the next.
Right. But sometimes these snow plows don't interchange year to year, and so, you know, if you do it every year, then it's gonna start costing quite a bit of money to change all your plow brackets and stuff.
Absolutely.
Get on him, Denise. Get on him, Denise.
He's not going to talk.
And I know that, I know that's a concern for the road department because obviously when they come in and they get approval for us from the fiscal court to go out and bid vehicles, and then they're given a timeline, they're trying to beat, say, the winter months for snow plowing, and if the vehicle is not equipped and it takes longer, or we get into the months that it starts to snow. This year, I think we've only had one incident of snow, but we were in the months that the snow conditions could be available. So I know that they are concerned to make sure that, has Enterprise ever had an issue with manufacturers as far as getting their vehicles?
Oh, who hasn't?
Well, I just want to make sure that everybody understands.
Yeah, it's common, but like I said, as we get into the partnership and we start to plan ahead, that's the stuff that we can really minimize. I mean, there are certain things that are out of your control.
Sure.
But if we're ordering at the beginning of the model year, you're getting the best price and you're ensuring that you're actually going to get that vehicle. The longer you wait, they have little incremental price increases throughout the year. And also you're susceptible to, you know, if a manufacturer meets allocation, they could cancel orders. You know, we've seen it happen before. So it's a matter of just staying ahead of the game, and we're there to guide you guys because they all have different cutoffs. You know, your preference may be Chevy, but the cutoff might be 2 months before Ford or vice versa. So we're looking at that stuff for you guys, and it's a little bit more of a challenge when you're starting out the partnership.
So is that so that everybody understands, or, you know, in that relationship, Enterprise, your office is basically contacting us, telling us, hey, here's the time frame that you need to be putting the order in.
Yes. So we'll have 2 key meetings for you guys. One is a fleet analysis meeting and an order planning meeting where we start to look at when we need to replace these vehicles, when we need to order them based on when you want to have them in the fleet.
How would this affect our bidding process? The 20,000?
Well, since we are a Sourcewell member, all those, it basically takes the procurement out of it because they've already done the procurement process for us.
Okay.
So in a scenario, Eric, just so that I understand, having that window of opportunity, we've got 2019 on the, say, the Chevy Silverado 1500. We're in the middle of February. When is the window to start ordering vehicles for next year?
For next year, you would probably want to get your orders in around, maybe around this time. I would say March, April at the latest, if you want them at the beginning of your next budget year. As far as the model years go, September, October is, when you want to get in on your 2020 replacements. So you may order some vehicles now, and we'll be meeting with you in the next few months to talk about getting orders in for the 2020 model year.
Okay.
The last 2 pages of the packet, I just have a press release based on Warren County's partnership. This is from 2017, so I think this was around the time that they were ordering their second round of vehicles, but it was just a little blurb about how the program was going. And then the last page, I have all of our government clients listed here, and then a couple of folks that you can reach out to if you want to get some firsthand experience. But we also have plenty of commercial clients that would speak to you guys as well. So Hudson, John Deere, H&R Agri-Power, Scotty's, they're all on the program. So use vehicles very similarly to how you guys would use them, your highway contractor type of vehicles.
Have we identified our 12?
Yeah.
So on page 3, okay, 7 sedans and 1 4x4 SUV, 1 4x2 SUV. So we've identified these, the regular cab 4x4.
This doesn't take into account the ones that we were immediately needing.
And then I had talked with Jonathan Creek Water District too. They are actually in need of a vehicle, and under PSC, they have certain requirements as far as what they can go into a contract on a vehicle. So they're kind of in a unique situation as far as their vehicle needs. This would actually be a good opportunity for them to lease into the truck program because they can do it every year. They can go into a 1-year lease through us. Obviously, that would have to be an action item working with the water district, but they could go through an agreement with us to where they can get that vehicle through a lease, and then every year they get a new vehicle. That gets them. They got about a 2-year window that they're going to need a vehicle, and PSC is giving them only so much. I guess you can say contract power to go into a contract on a long. They can't go into a long-term contract, but for now they can go into a contract that would be 1 year or 2 years max. So this is something else, just for the fiscal court's knowledge, that they do have a need, and this might be able to help them with that need. Is that vehicle, I know when we discussed this, is that vehicle tied into this?
Yes.
Or where is that vehicle
That
at?
extended cab. Oh, okay. Are you talking about on the analysis, the 10-year analysis? I don't think we had any of their
I think
vehicles
the-
on the fleet list.
Those initial needs, I think, were left out of
Yeah.
the bigger picture, and were just listed as like initial needs, the immediate needs that we had talked about in our initial meeting.
Okay.
So I think that was
Was that one of the vehicles as far as initial
on,
needs? What page was that?
oh, right here. Any of these, those are the ones that he kind of,
Yeah, page 4 is the summary of pricing. I think we talked about an extended cab,
Yeah.
four-wheel drive pickup for them. So that's why I made sure to include that example here.
Okay.
yeah, but it wouldn't be on it's not in this one. It would just basically
Right.
increase our fleet by
Right.
that many.
Wendy, do y'all have any other questions? I mean, go ahead and ask, don't hide back. You got any concerns or anything, ask away.
Well, I had a list, and I've asked them.
Say them all again in the mic.
As far as commitment to the program, just because this is a 10-year model, it doesn't mean you're locked into a partnership for 10 years with us at any given time. You're only on the hook for the balance that you owe on the vehicles. So from a risk standpoint, the partnership, you're not locked into anything for a certain period of time.
How is the balance on the vehicles determined?
What's that?
How is the balance on the vehicles determined?
Like the residual?
Well, you said you're only on the hook for the balance on the vehicles.
Oh, it's based on how we're depreciating the vehicle. So as you're making payments, $430 a month, that, the amount that you owe on that vehicle is going down each month based on the payments that you're making. So the good thing for you all is you're buying them so well, you're almost right side up day one because it's just such a strong upfront cost for you all. So if for some reason you did have to sell something early, there's a good chance that we would have equity for you all.
Sheriff, was there any of this gonna help out with your fleet?
I mean, anything that's not pursuit-related, pursuit-rated vehicle, other than the patrol vehicles, I mean, I don't think our detectives or court security or SROs would mind going to the 4 extended cab pickup trucks, especially if you could rotate them out, especially if the equity on the back end is the best for the pickup trucks now. We'll still have 16, 17, 18, about 18 vehicles that are, we're looking at 33 total vehicles, and then 18 of those would need to be pursuit rated, probably Dodge Chargers. So, and we would upfit those totally different than we could any of the other vehicles. I guess that would be totally separate than what's on here.
Right, from this analysis, the numbers are a little bit different because of that equipment cost. Your pursuit vehicles they're a big cost any way you cut it, whether you're rotating them every 4 years or every 10 years. So
4 years would be ideal if we can get rid of them at 80,000, 85,000.
I would say not to go beyond that. The maintenance that you're taking on at that point, the downtime,
Right.
it's strong, so.
Pickup trucks may have a slightly less monthly value, but obviously for court security, they do a lot of sometimes long-distance transport, so you might get into fuel economy. That may be something you want to look at too on that. Is a pickup truck better or a sedan better, because of that?
Or we even talked about maybe getting a Fusion hybrid or something like that. If our court security, hard driving is not the issue, it's the amount of miles that they go on transports.
Yeah.
So. But then again, is the Ford Fusion going to bring anything at the end of the lease as to where a 4-door Chevy is going to bring, or truck may bring double that?
Right, that's a big consideration. So a lot more options out there now for hybrid vehicles, but the upfront cost is obviously more than just a straight gas vehicle. So we can look at that for you guys.
I mean, I know we had talked about upfitting, as far as when you guys upfit them, do that go into the lease, or do we buy the upfitted equipment, cash out, and then remove them at the end of the lease?
It's usually a best practice to pay for the equipment separately, or at least pay for half of it up front. But we do have options for you guys based on
I mean, I don't
cash
know
flow
what
and what you're trying to accomplish.
what you all were thinking as far as,
Yeah, I think what
The
we
best way.
talked about is if you purchased the equipment outright, you could transfer it from one vehicle
Be able
to
to
the
move it
next,
from one to
if
the
it-
other.
If it works that way.
does it affect the value of the vehicle when we take that
Equipment
stuff
adds
back
no
out?
value to the
Okay.
vehicles. That's why it's a best practice usually to just pay for it
Take it out.
completely separately, and we'll focus on depreciation of the vehicle.
I mean, if we can get rid of them at 80,000, I mean, that, our maintenance is what, like I said yesterday, is eating us up. We're to the point now where we've got one transmission's getting ready to go on a Tahoe, but you can't complain, the Tahoe's got 160,000 miles on it, so. But if it goes out, we don't have the money to, it just sets until July, so that's what we're trying to avoid, so.
So would the vehicles tie in, if the fiscal court was to move on this, would the sheriff's department actually tie in, or would they be separate, or how would that work?
However you guys want to treat it.
I think what we talked about initially was that any of the sheriff's vehicles that were emergency response vehicles, we would kind of keep over here for now. And any of the court security or detective vehicles that we could roll into the non-emergency response vehicles, we could put into this program and then watch how this goes and then eventually implement it with the emergency response vehicels. It's the way I kind of understood we would approach that.
Yeah, that would be fine.
But if we ended up, like the court security, would they still need a cage? The partition between them as far as, I don't care about the blue lights and that, but as far as putting the cage in, taking the cage out, is that going to affect the value? I don't really know, do they drill holes in the floor, putting those partitions in, or is it just a?
Not the cage itself, if there's consoles, radio and stuff, sometimes they have it.
Yeah, anytime you're adding or subtracting equipment, it will affect the value, but you guys you can do whatever you want. With
I was just worried about the resale, if it's got 4 holes in the floor, or they bolted a cage down, or if it looks like we've removed radios or whatnot, so. I don't know that the SROs would necessarily need a cage, just a radio and maybe a couple of slick top lights.
Did you say Graves County? I think Graves
Graves
County.
is, yeah, Graves on the fleet.
participates.
Yes.
Carlisle County, I think they participate.
We're in talks right now with Carlisle.
Okay.
Yeah. With Sheriff Gilbert and Judge Terry.
Let's see.
Eddie, do the lights leave a hole in the roof, or they?
I think they drill a hole in the roof with the cord, the main cord that goes down in there. But we do have slick top options, we could do we call them supervisor light bars, where it's, I don't know if you've ever seen the Charger from ABC, there's just a small light bar that's in the dash, basically. And I don't really see any holes drilled in my car.
Yeah, the only holes would be drilled would be in the door where those smaller lights are on, like by.
Yeah, because they're supposed to have 24, if you've got lights on, you're supposed to see them 24 or 360-degree vision. That's kind of the laws.
Or maybe across the back where they attached it by, where the back
Yeah.
window is, but they're minimal in that Charger.
Right. But if you can get a pickup truck for 25,000, it's going to sell more than a Charger is at the end of 4 years, probably significantly
Absolutely.
more.
So we can probably contact some of these agencies that are doing it to find out what, if any, depreciation with equipment that they're
Do you know
running
what
into.
Graves is using for, like, court security? Do you know any of the details about, like, Graves County,
Chargers,
mostly?
yeah, most of them were all-wheel drive. I think court security, they went with rear wheel.
But still Chargers?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the monthly cost is on for the all-wheel drive Pursuit Chargers as far as on a lease?
A lot of it's going to depend on what we're going to do with the equipment. So I would say anywhere from
You just
500 a
said-
month to 800, depending on if you're going to pay for the equipment separately or have some
I
available.
think that makes the most sense. We buy that separately and then just stick with leasing the vehicle.
And we can still handle the logistics for you as far as getting that equipment installed.
Yeah.
So you don't have to start making your payments on the vehicles until they're delivered and ready to go
Ready
with
to
all
go.
of your equipment.
Right.
So then we would just invoice for you guys. We don't mark it up or anything. We would just float the money for you.
That's
and then we
by
just-
whoever he wants to have it installed.
Yeah,
by.
like you said, T-Long does
Yeah.
a lot. We've got Greg Hanish that does some, and
Whoever you guys want.
I talked to Terry Long the other day. He said he was doing some of Graves's new cars, so
Yes.
I know he was doing those. I guess we just need to do the math as far as, I know we gave 25.5 for the 219 cars. You know, if we were to run those for 4 years, 80,000 miles and get 7,000 out of them,
Yeah.
is it cheaper to buy them or is it cheaper to lease them? But I think the lease makes sense, at least when you figure, even if we lease 16 of the 33 vehicles, it may make more sense to do that. From the court security kind of gets forgotten about, then the SROs is the new thing. We've got 4 cars out there that are just atrocious. I mean, some of them's 230,000 miles on a Crown Vic, they barely start. I mean, if they actually had to use them for police work, they'd give out. But if we could roll through those on 3 or 4 year leases.
As far as the lease versus buy, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me how you guys fund your cycle. You can pay cash for the vehicles. I'm more interested in you guys replacing them at the right time. So for me, the question would be not necessarily cash versus lease, but a 4-year cycle versus an 8-year cycle. What is the best total cost of ownership? And I could say with confidence it's going to be the 4-year, because we're going to stay out of the maintenance game, the downtime game. We're going to keep up with technology on fuel economy. So how we fund that is ultimately up to you guys. Most folks go with the lease just because it's an easy budgetable expense that we can help you guys plan for each year.
I think that the goal at the end of the day is it takes the guesswork out of us trying to determine when to do that.
Right.
You know, they're the resource that makes that happen, not us trying to figure out, well, now it's costing us more money to upkeep these vehicles. So,
I guess the only thing with the extended cab truck with that 4.86, would that, I know that's $100 difference if you go up to the V8. I don't know if that would make a difference for them, but as far as durability over a 3 or 4 year period, is the V6 resale value especially, I feel like the market for that one at the $400 a month price range would be much less than it would be. Yeah, with the 5.3. So I don't want to get stuck on that $400 a month when I know as far as selling resale value, the 5.3 will sell 3 times as fast as a 4.3 would, I would think.
Yeah, you guys, V8's fine. That's totally up to you all. Upfront cost will be a little bit more, but you're going to make up for it on the back end, so.
So how exactly are these liquidated at the end of the term that's agreed on, whether it be 80,000 miles or whatever?
So as far as what our process is for
Yes.
selling the vehicle, once we get to the end of the term, if we've decided we're going to replace that vehicle, we would deliver the replacement vehicle, take the other one out of service, sell it on your behalf. We're selling wholesale to about 400 different dealers in Kentucky. That's where we're going to get the most bang for our buck on the back end, is by marketing it to those folks and having them bid on your vehicles. So they're trying to find a retail buyer for that vehicle, and that's how it's going to be a much better return than your typical auction process or surplus.
Do you have any data as far as when the best time to get rid of, I'm obviously talking about the sheriff's office, but the patrol vehicles, the pursuit vehicles, is there a,
Like a sweet spot.
yeah, is 4 years too much? Does it need to be at 40,000 miles? Does it need to be at 60, 80? We're at about 20,000 a year. We'll have some guys run 23 or 4, but you might have some guys run 16 a year.
I think you're on track with 80 to 85,000 miles, however long it takes you to get there. But again, it changes on a year-to-year basis. So we could come in next year and say, we need to hold on to this.
So say it's a 4-year lease and you're gonna cycle that in at 80,000 miles, and they don't get to the 80,000 miles in the 4 years. What happens at that point?
We would just look at your equity position. You're going to be in a better position because you were paying it down based on
Sure.
having more miles. So that spread's going to be even bigger. So we could either hold on to it, keep it in the fleet until you get to
Till-
80,000.
okay.
Or we can go ahead and capitalize on that and sell it for a little bit more of a premium right now.
Okay. And then so after the 4-year lease term is up, then we continue to pay that. Do we go into another, I guess, lease term?
Yes, so if we were going to keep that in the fleet, we would then just go on a month-to-month or year-to-year
Okay.
basis.
Until
and
we
just
get to that
continue
point.
make payments.
Okay, gotcha.
You mentioned the average was like 12.7 on mileage. And if you went over 15,000 a year, it kind of bumps you up or causes some issues. With ours, it's definitely more than that. I mean, is that preset initially, or is that automatically going to bump it up quite a bit just because of the fact we know we're going to be over 15?
Yes, so it'll be a shorter term based on higher mileage. The depreciation, the vehicles depreciate with the mileage. So that means you're just going to have a bigger monthly payment on a 20,000-mile vehicle compared to a 10,000-mile vehicle. Same exact vehicle, the one that's going 20,000 a year is going to have a higher monthly payment.
I think when we first initially started thinking about this, you think about a lease vehicle, and then you're going to get a lease amount for 12,000 miles a year. And if you go over that, you're going to get, X number, dollars per mile driven over that. I think the important thing to remember is, yeah, we've got an average per year that we're going to drive these vehicles, but really the cycle is dependent on the miles driven. So if you drove 40,000 miles in the first 2 years of that term of the lease, you're going to go ahead and cycle that out, right?
Yeah, we would have the option to.
You would have the option to.
Yeah, if the numbers support that, we could definitely do it.
The key is setting the lease number high enough that we don't end up upside down on the
Yes.
vehicle
Right.
at whatever time that is to cash out.
We want your payment to reflect how you're using the vehicle.
How many vehicles do you think you would need to,
We just counted up 33 total from top to bottom.
33 that you would want to cycle?
That's just total fleet. That's total fleet. We've got a few cars that are newer, but then again, even some of our Chargers have got 50,000 on them already. So probably even more than that, some of them. But, we've got Tahoes out there with, one of them's got 150 on it. Several of them have 90 to 120. And then like I say, our SRO cars, we didn't plan for that. So they got stuck in old Crown Victorias that are 2000 models, 2002 models. One of them does have 230, 235. One of them, the odometer doesn't even work on it. So for me, it's going to be, if we do this, I don't see where I would be able to stay budget neutral moving to Enterprise. I would, even with the drug purchases that we bought with drug seizures, I was buying $6,000 cars, just, they've already depreciated out. They'll be worth $5,000 in a year and a half, probably, whenever we sell them. So, I don't know. I don't know as far as, that would be my worry, would be eating up more money yearly in my line items. We'd have better cars, but I don't know. Because our maintenance budget, I believe, is $40,000, and then we had a $9,000 added to it from insurance money. But we've, like I say, we've already eaten up $36,000 of that in 6 months. So, you add $40,000 in maintenance. Now, we've got tires, a lot of that's not counting tires. We've got another line item for tires, $10,000 a year for tires. But, you know, so you're talking, that's $50,000 right there that, and then you bring that $40,000 down to just oil changes and general maintenance, and that's a lot that could go,
Yeah.
because to get on an 80,000 mile cycle buying, we're gonna need to buy 5 minimum, maybe 6 cars a year, to where we usually traditionally buy 3. So, to ever get to that 80,000 miles where we can, you know, sell them, to where they're still worth $6,000 or $7,000 when we sell them. But the truck sounds attractive. I mean, it sounds attractive to me, because a truck with 80,000 miles on it seems to be worth $10,000 or $12,000, $14,000 still. I mean, depending on what it is.
Yep.
As to where that Charger's not gonna be, and you're probably paying about the same amount for both. You'll probably maybe paying 30 for a V8, but you're getting that and a little bit more back in depreciation, or on the back end, I would think.
If the goal is to get to an 80,000 mile cycle and it takes you 4 years to get there, based on 33 vehicles, you need to be replacing about 8 vehicles a year.
So that's even more than,
So then the question becomes, is that something we want to pay cash for, or is that something that you lease?
it's $200,000 a year just in upfront.
We're at the condition right now where 4 SROs were added last year, 2 ABC positions, so that's 6 people when vehicles were never thought of during that. So we were automatically 6 vehicles short. I mean, we had vehicles we were ready that needed to be gone, and we've had to keep them in the fleet to cover those positions. So we're automatically 6 vehicles behind without replacing what we need to be replacing as well. So wherever it's at, we're kind of in that desperate shape right now of needing to go one way or the other. So which one, just now it's figuring which one makes more sense, you know, just to lease it and spread it out, or to purchase it up front.
The RSO agreement, is that the vehicle cost?
Cars are not mentioned in the
Not mentioned.
SRO event that I've read.
I don't believe so.
It is. I don't remember it. It was just overtime, equipment, and salary.
I think we could possibly do a little research on if we're cycling out some things. I believe like I believe the new Ford Interceptors, the Explorer, basically, are supposed to have kind of been designed that you might be able to cycle some of the Crown Victoria cages. So we could do a little bit, you know, of research to see if some of the equipment that we have could transfer in. That would save some, you know, upfront money. Whichever direction you go, you know, we could see about that. That might help determine, especially if we know, leasing stretched out on, if you go with different vehicles, it may not make a difference on whether or not it's an SUV or sedan. You know, upfront purchase, that makes a difference, obviously, but leasing, it may not make that much of a difference. May even be more practical to go with a pickup truck or something, but we can see about exchanging some of that equipment that we already have.
I mean, you could probably go with an 8-year lease on a SRO vehicle, I would think. And you get a pickup truck, you're definitely going to have, even if it's an 8-year-old vehicle, if it's got 60,000 miles on it and it's 8 years old, it's still going to be, I feel like we would be money ahead at that point when we went to sell it. It might help lower I don't know if we probably wouldn't go an 8-year lease, but maybe a 5-year. You might have a 40 or 50,000 mile truck. That's 5 years old. I think it would, pretty premium market for that. Could really reduce the cost of buying those guys' vehicles. SROs are going to, or the court security is going to put a bunch of miles on them. You know, they're going to do minimum 20,000 a year.
Yeah.
probably more. I mean, they're going all over the state all the time. So, but SROs, we may be able to save money that way, to where we would usually wait till the car is worn out, then give it to an SRO. They don't put the policing patrol kind of mileage hard driving on them, so they tend to last more. But say if one breaks down right now, just take it to the junkyard at this point.
They're not worth anything.
I mean, you're going to get $400 or $500 out of them on Gov Deals. Some of those Crown Vics, maybe $1,000. You know where the SUV, like, speaking of the Explorer, do you know where that would fall, maybe on this scale of that $500 a month range, or would it be more for SUVs as far as, I didn't see any. I know that they had mentioned some SUVs in their fleet. I didn't know if price range, if you did a 5-year lease for a Ford Explorer.
An Explorer, not
Yeah.
the utility
Right,
Interceptor.
just say it's a Ford Explorer that we used, civilian models.
Probably would be in line with the crew cab.
Okay. And it may be, would it be, because they would probably have V6s in them, wouldn't they? Would it be more along the lines of that, the 4.3 equal, like the $400 a month range and the 500, you think? Or you think it'd
I
probably
would
be,
have to look at it. I think your SUVs are,
Gonna
the
be more.
discount, the upfront discounts aren't as strong on SUVs
Okay.
as they are on pickup trucks. So
Okay.
I think to be safe, of course, I can dive in and look at the numbers, but probably closer to the crew cab truck.
gonna
just to
pay
be
more?
safe.
Yeah.
Tell you, one of the things that I'm sitting here listening, something that we may need to be tracking. I know we were talking about alcohol-related calls, but it seems like we need to maybe we need to be tracking the amount of miles that are involved in that call.
Good,
Because
yeah.
we get the call and the nature of the call, but if you're on the south end of the county and you're traveling, and people don't realize how big this county is, if you're traveling to the north end to a call, and you're doing that throughout the year, and here we are discussing, I know we're kind of getting off the enterprise thing, but in a way, this does tie in, because if we go to something like this, that has a cost to your agency in terms of trying to better your fleet. So it might be something, try to
Yeah.
figure out a way to track
Track
from the
that.
initial point of the call to the end point of the call, and that mileage, and how we can tie in that mileage to justify how that ties into your fleet. And that's a tax on your fleet, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was reading the one from Warren County, and it mentioned that they has, basically every vehicle that comes with the Enterprise has the GPS tracking, and so you monitor the mileage, miles per gallon, and all that other stuff. Does that come with standard with every Enterprise vehicle?
It's not standard.
Okay.
That's a separate program.
Okay.
It's, program is called GeoTab, and that's something you would pay for the device. It would plug into the OBD2 port, and we can track your vehicles. There are several plans that you can opt for, but basically what you're paying for is a data plan once you get the device. And it's all the way from a breadcrumb trail technology to dispatching, whatever you want to take advantage of. So definitely something we can look at for you guys, give you guys some option for that.
I'd be interested in the cost on that. If there's a benefit.
They tried to do that a couple of years ago. And I think there's even still a line that we pay a membership for a GPS tracking that essentially we're not using.
I'd be interested in seeing if that's a benefit for your
I mean, they
department.
bought, I think someone donated a TV and everything that we put at dispatch. The ambulances are tracked GPS, but we never bought in.
It's supposed to be part of that, when the deal that we got with Caliber, with the new CAD software, that was actually supposed to be part of it, but it was just never administered.
Was anything installed on the vehicles?
You have to install it separately, so, but I mean, you can buy $25 GPS OcuPuck that,
Oh.
USB that plugs into the laptop, so.
But if it goes into the LVD port, I mean,
It's scalable too. Our option would be scalable if you wanted to apply it to the rest of the fleet. It would be the same program for the entire fleet. So, I mean, that's,
it'd be good with our patrol. I mean, somebody's not answering. It may help that extra layer of safety as far as with the radio issues that we do have right now. Hey, we know where his car is at least.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear on this whole process. So you start out with the price of the vehicle, and you apply the lease payments to that until you get to the point you want to turn the vehicle in. And then the vehicle, you sell the vehicle. If the amount that the vehicle brings is less than what's owed on the vehicle, is that then the county's responsibility that's rolled into the next lease?
it would be technically, yes. A
But-
surprise like that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But what scares me about that is we have absolutely no control over the vehicle being sold as to the price or who to, or I don't care who to, I would care more about the price, but that part of that scares me.
Sure. So just to be clear, you guys will always have first right of refusal. Before we sell a vehicle for you, we would put a fair market value on that. We would show you what that value is in relationship to what you owe on the vehicle. If for some reason that fair market value is less than what you owe, we wouldn't recommend selling that vehicle unless it's small enough to where it still makes sense to replace that vehicle. So if we did recommend that, we would get your approval before we executed. But the scenario you're talking about, we'd likely just keep that vehicle in the fleet. If it's not worth more than what you owe on it, we would just keep it in the fleet.
Gotcha.
But we're going to be conservative with how we pay these vehicles down. You know, we understand how you're using them. They get beat up. You know, so we're going to pay them down conservatively to try to get you in an equitable position as soon as possible. Because the sooner you're in an equitable position, the more options we have for maybe early cycling vehicles.
Is it software that you would just upload for the maintenance, for the mechanic, or is it,
Yes, we would get them set up. We would basically send him a link and walk him through getting that software set up on his computer. It's all web-based, so it's
Okay.
actually not going to be software on his computer. It's just logging into the website.
Did you say what the cost was on the system that would track the mileage and all that? I just think from a maintenance standpoint, that would be something to consider.
The GPS program? So the device itself is $50, depends on how many you get, it's scaled, but $50 for the device and anywhere from $19 to $29 a month for the service. So it just depends on, what you guys are wanting to track. I think you could probably accomplish what you need to with the $19 a month program. Yeah, but we can definitely look into that further. I could get you connected with someone that will help you guys figure out what you need.
So part of the like the maintenance program is when a vehicle comes in for an oil change or routine maintenance, that program captures all that data from that vehicle so that you have a record of when certain things were done. Is that okay? Because I think right now, I mean, we may be doing some of that, but I think probably a lot. It's just like, when is it needed? But it also tracks, okay, you've been this many miles, it's time for you to get an oil change. I don't think we track that as much as we probably could. You probably do more with your all's trucks, but the other fleet, I don't think we do.
As far as your oil change intervals and all stuff like that, I mean, is that just per manufacturer?
Yes, exactly, per manufacturer, unless you guys want to do something else. And we can put a note in there to make sure we follow that.
Well, a lot of vehicles now, they've got, oil monitoring systems on them. So, I mean, they say as long as you go with them, you're still covered, so.
Yeah.
Parts, I mean, Napa or any specific oil or just per manufacturer specs?
As far as parts that you guys would use for your
Yes.
in-house shop, whatever you
Okay.
continue, you can continue to use that. But the mileage will also, I appreciate y'all bringing that up, but we'll also track mileage. When those vehicles go into the shop, the mileage will be recorded then. We'll also track it through the fuel program as well. So anytime you put fuel in a vehicle, you'll be prompted to put your mileage in there. So we'll use an algorithm to estimate the current mileage on the vehicle and send out reminders.
How does that fuel, I know we've been looking at a fuel management system as well. How does your all's work as far as that goes?
So it's through WEX. They're the largest fuel provider in North America. But basically,
Yeah, well, go ahead, sorry.
no, it works similar to the other fuel programs, similar to what you guys have now. When you go to the gas station, you'll be prompted to put your PIN in, and then also the current mileage, the odometer of the vehicle. So that will feed into our website. Like I said, we'll use that, the maintenance data to estimate what the current mileage is on a vehicle. And we can send out reminders to department heads or to individuals when maintenance is needed or oil changes are needed.
So we're currently a WEX customer, so would that just be something we provide you all with our information and it links up with the maintenance program?
So we would transfer your account
Okay,
over to the Enterprise WEX program. We would recut cards.
okay,
So, and the, sorry.
You have bulk fuel, right?
Yeah.
And we use bulk fuel as well, so we don't, unless somebody's transporting, out of county or something like that, they wouldn't use WEX. But typically, we just use bulk, so can that be tied in to the same? I mean, how would we tie that in?
yeah, it's a
overall?
good question.
They have some options. You could put the monitoring system on your bulk containers. I don't know that it would be economical to do it. We could look into the option to see if the investment would be worth it for you guys. Otherwise, I would just say continue to use your bulk fuel, obviously.
I didn't know if you had some kind of software that we could then.
Link those two
On the
together.
back end, just plug it in so that
Right.
you still have the information. We keep up with the fuel log, with the mileage, with, the date and time, the mileage, stuff like that. So I didn't know if there was some kind of software that we could also include and do on our own and keep in with that.
Yeah, the one that
without
we,
going through Wix.
the one that we presented, was it yesterday, I guess, or we talked about, it's called Fluid Secure. And it's through Track Engineering, but it's basically the same thing. I don't know if we have to do manual or if there's some kind of interface between Fluid Secure and that maintenance program that it can communicate with each other. It's something we may want to look at, but that's something that we are looking at with our bulk fuel. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I guess, do we need to look at like a proposal, like a written proposal contract or something, how we need to move forward?
Yeah, I thought, did you say you brought something with you as far as a proposal?
So the Sourcewell, we have the contracts with Sourcewell. You guys are a member, so if that's the route you want to take, you would be able to piggyback off of that contract. And I do have them with me too, so.
Do you have a copy of the contract so that we can just review it? And I don't know if we're in a position to take action today, but definitely, I know there's some math I still want to look at and some other options for your department to look at. I've wrote some notes down. And then if there's any other concerns or issues, if any, I don't know if there are, but I would like to look at the proposals. That way they can, the court can see that. We can have this as an action item for a later date, if that's something that y'all would rather look at. So that, did you say you brought them?
Yes.
We can, before you leave today, we can get a,
Okay.
we can get a copy of that. The only question that's not answered is the one you regret. So if there's any questions while you got him here, if not, we know how to get a hold of you.
Okay.
But I appreciate your time today and your presentation, so.
With that, are you going to get, if we give you suggestions of vehicles, then you can break that down and give us the price for those?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably best if you all want to communicate with them directly as far as those vehicles, like your court security and your SROs, the ones that aren't the emergency response vehicles. You can get, definitive answers on them.
So it's something that you guys are wanting to kind of package it all together and make,
I think the ones that aren't the pursuit vehicles, I think it would be,
Package our
yep,
court security, detective,
yep,
school resource, everything but the, say, 18 pursuit vehicles.
yep.
Which, you're talking still about 15 vehicles, so, that are not pursuit ready.
Yeah, because I think we're probably in a position where we need to dive into those a little bit more
Yeah.
to see if it would be a better solution. But yeah, for sure, those other ones.
I think so. Especially with a pickup truck. I've never thought about that, but the back end of a pickup's gonna get a lot more, especially with low mileage.
yeah, so I can put together a similar analysis for you guys. And then are we okay to wait on the water district truck? Is that going to be packaged in with all of this?
Yeah, the meeting that we had, I kind of ran those numbers by them, and they said that they are definitely interested in that. That's in their parameters as far as what they can go into as far as a contract and how much. So that's something where the fiscal court would basically have to do some type of an agreement with them that they're going to pay X amount of dollars, if that's the case. If we were to do that, the court would have to have some type of commitment from them that they would participate. But yes, in the, we want to show that in ours. So,
Yeah, because I think there's, what, 4, including that one, the initial needs, immediate needs. So that would be like as we kind of make the decision on the other, that would be part of the additional ones that we would include. Okay.
all right.
Okay, thank you all for the opportunity.
Appreciate it, Eric.
Yeah, thanks.
You got his info?
Don't think so. I'll get it.
Yeah.
Does it sit on the card?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, perfect. All right. If there's no other questions, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion, Judge.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.